Question 25 for RPGaDAY 2016 is what makes for a good character? And I can sum up what for me makes a good character in one simple word, and that is flaws. Now, whether your game has a dedicated flaws and merit system like Old World of Darkness, or whether it has an aspect-based system like Fate, whatever character you're creating, I would advise a person not to just focus on their strengths, but also focus on their weaknesses, their flaws. In my opinion, these can be just as important, if not more important, as what they excel in to determine what makes a great character. For instance, it seems that more triumphant when someone overcomes flaws, whether it's in their own character, whether it's enemies they've made, whether it's dependents they have, in order to triumph over adversity, than if you just have a sort of shining caricature who embodies the best qualities of their species, has no flaws, has never been tempted by the darkness. You expect that sort of person to inevitably triumph. However, they don't really feel like a sort of three-dimensional character, since we know that in the real world, everyone has things they are good at and everyone has things they are bad at. That's just the way it goes. So by creating a character who has these flaws, these darker sides, these vices, to contrast with their virtues and the things they are good at, you make a more well-rounded character. You create someone that feels more multi-layered, and in doing so you also provide an avenue to advance the role-playing and move the story forward. Since, speaking as a GM, if I know a character has a flaw and it's something they've expressed an interest in playing, I will do my utmost to bring that flaw into the game somehow. Not just as in, oh, you've got this flaw, smack! That's you dealt with for that scene, that's you out for the count. But in a case of, oh, you've taken this flaw, you clearly want to use it to make the game more interesting. You're saying to me, oh, I'd like to see this thing play out. I think it's an opportunity for good role-playing. And when I say this, I'm aware that in games with merits and flaws, there are some people who will take flaws just to try and gain extra points. They can have a few extra skills. I'm not talking about them at the minute. I'm talking about the people who genuinely take flaws and downsides to their characters because they think they'll be interesting to play and because they think they'll make the story more interesting. And they're absolutely right. It's far more evocative and personal if a plot involves a flaw of a character that's involved in it. So, for instance, if I want to bring in a plot that involves someone being kidnapped by an enemy, if I just say to you as players, oh, that random baker that you met last week, he's been kidnapped by your arch nemesis, you probably go, oh, well, we're going to have to get bread somewhere else now, or give a shrug and be like, oh, well, it doesn't have that much impact. However, if you're playing a character who has been looking after a dependent, perhaps they have a young daughter or a young son they've been having to care for, that is like a flaw on their character sheet, I suppose. Like I say, these people depend on them. If we've seen this person throughout the game and suddenly the enemy kidnaps them, it now hits that much harder and closer to home to the players, and they're more invested in recovering this person. Now, this can be overdone. If a GM's constantly threatening a player character's backgrounds and their flaws, we become familiar with it and we tend to become a little bit complacent. However, used sparingly, it can add a great deal of impact to games. It makes characters seem more well-rounded, and it moves the story on and gives us extra plot threads that we can pull on to make the game more interesting. So that's my answer to question 25. What makes for a good character? Flaws and weaknesses. That's what makes for a good character, in my opinion. So until I see you next time, take care and happy gaming.